Looking back on my life, I really have no regrets. I have had a blessed life. Well, I do have one regret, but overall, I have been blessed in my life. And as a retiree, I want to tell you some surprises that I have encountered because retirement is nothing like I remembered. All right, let's go. It is Sunday afternoon. There is football, soccer on TV. But I just feel a little bit wistful. And I want to kind of take a look back and take you along, letting you see a little bit into my life. Because, we all have a story. And when we look back at all the things that have happened in our lives, we can either say, I am blessed, or we can say, I am cursed. Which one are you? What is your interpretation of your life, the events, the trials that you have encountered? I say I am blessed. All right. If this is your first time seeing me, I am Maggie Lazar. I am a retiree here in Panama, and I have been retired since I think 2021. I'm not even sure because I think it's about 5 or 6 years out. But I live here in Panama. I chose Panama, or I should say Panama chose me, but I am very content. There is a difference between being happy and being content. Happiness, I say, is situational. The things that could make you happy would be a fat bank account, lots of friends, the accoutrement, what I call that, the house, the car, the designer clothes. But contentment is a state of being that regardless of what is going on, the essence of you is settled. It is calm. There's a lot of noise going on, and you have moments where you break down, but on a continuum, you are content. You are grateful for what you have. You don't spend your energy wishing for this, wishing for that, and always trying to achieve something that's not achievable. So in this video, I want to tell you a little bit about my life, the things that have happened to me, for me to say I have no regrets. And trust me, it hasn't been linear. It hasn't been perfect. But it's all about perspective. It's about how I see it on this side. I did not always see it that way when I was younger. Saying, oh my God, I don't have this. Oh my God, my parents divorced. Oh my God, my mom is a single mom. Oh my God, my mom is not around. Remember, I always say, there's always a ram in the bush. God, if your life is guided by God, He always puts people and things in your path to guide you. Now, it's up to you to be wise enough and see it for what it is. But of course, it takes maturity. It takes time. It takes years for you to look back and say, oh, that's what it was. And that's what I call being wise, wisdom. That I can look back and say, well, sis, it could have been a lot worse. You could have been trafficked. You could have been sexually molested. So stop it. Count your blessings instead. I'm having some Earl Grey tea. I have been craving that. I've been putting it off because when I drink it, I know it's going to keep me up tonight. It's got a good amount of caffeine, and caffeine just kind of perks me up. Did I have coffee today? No. I had coffee yesterday. Oh, that's 2 days in a row. No bueno. Many of you know that I am a Caribbean girl. I was born on the island of Haiti. You know, all the stuff Haiti has gone through, and now we're in the World Cup. And then this is one thing I want to just do a little caveat here. When people, system, consciously try to crush a people, a whole swath of people, a whole generation of people, but it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot cut the head off. The roots, you might cut the head, what you think is the head, but the roots run deep. Black people are resilient. And we're still here. That's all I'm going to say. We're still here. So I had a very happy childhood, even though I lived in what is quoted as being a broken home. I didn't see anything broken about my home. My grandma lived with me. My uncle was present in my life. Yes, my dad wasn't. He and my mom, I was 4, I think, when they're separated or divorced. But let's go back to my mom. My mom she was not uh, raised in a single parent home. She had a mom and she had a dad. But you and I both know that that's not always hunky-dory, that being raised in what you call, what do they call them again? A perfect, or whatever they want to call it, a home with a mom and a dad, they think it's the perfect situation for children. That's not always the case. My grandfather was very abusive. He had multiple women. He was raised in the environment where men did whatever they did. And, woman, you were just like there to breed babies and be in the kitchen. My grandfather was a handsome man. I don't know if I have a picture of him I would put up there. Well, maybe not, just family. We don't need to do that. He was a handsome man. And when I look at my grandpa, he had Cherokee in him, the bridge of the nose, and his hair was slick and fine. So I think at some point he was like the mayor or a council person in the community. So he had status and power. So he had the pick of the litter. And from what I hear from family stories, he had multiple children from multiple women. Thank goodness HIV and STDs were not rampant at that time. So, but he was married to my grandma. My mom was one of 6 children. I think she was in the middle. Yeah, because there are 2 siblings younger than her. The home situation wasn't that great. My grandpa, children are seen but not heard. And then he decided which of the kids he was going to push forward in terms of education. And my mom was not one of them. So my mom grew up with the idea that she was cheated out of what she could have had to make her into a powerful, smart person, and she struggled because of that. So in her older years, she married. I'm sure she didn't think through what she was doing, marrying my dad, because, you were assigned, we picked that one for you and then make it work. And that didn't work for her either. But she went through her life with the resentment and the idea that she was going to show them she was going to make something of herself. And she did. My mom was a whiz in business, small business, and she understood diversification. She understood the power of land ownership. My mom owned multiple homes. She owns multiple fleets of commercial cars, buses that fettered people's to and fro. And she just did it. And she had a knack for it. Everything she touched turned to gold. So I was not raised in a poor household, even though my dad wasn't there after my parents divorced. But my mom's younger brother ended up living with us, and my grandma, after he, used my grandma for a punching ball too many times, once the kids got older, they're like, no, enough is enough. So my grandmother elected, or I don't know if they decided that she would be with my mom because we lived in the city and some of the other uncles and aunts kind of lived in the outskirts. I think only one, yeah, maybe a couple of them. So my mom was a whiz in business, and she's the one who decided to send me to the US because she wanted something better for me. So she said, so she thought. But in hindsight, she probably made the right decision for me. And I look at Haiti now and I'm like, I don't know what I would have been because I wanted to go to med school. I would have been a doctor and probably would have emigrated somewhere to France, Africa, or somewhere. Yeah. So she was a visionary. I was just turned 18, or maybe not even yet. Yeah, I think I was 18 after high school. So she sent me to the States to go to college. So here I am in these United States, in these New York streets. She sent me to the States with a family that I had met maybe when we were leaving because the mom, the dad, and their two daughters were coming over to New York. I don't know how she met these people. She just said, Maggie, you go. Who does that? Who does that? She did. You go with those people and make something of yourself. 1977, boarded a plane, American Airlines, to New York. I remember getting to the airport, and I remember I was wearing like a little sundress, wet behind the ears, had never traveled. Here, this woman had the fortitude to just pack me up as her firstborn on a plane with people I didn't know, with total strangers. Now, my mother wasn't thinking straight because a lot of things could have happened to me. I could have been raped, I could have been trafficked. She wasn't thinking about that, but he was looking after me. So I am here. I had a little incident at the airport. They kind of they sat me down asking questions. If it was right now, they would have, sent me back. And I was praying to be sent back at that time. I was so sad. I was heartbroken at leaving everything I knew. I mean, even though it wasn't a perfect place at that time, it wasn't all bad. We didn't have all the mess we have going on now. So things happened between me and those family members because, even though I was the firstborn, I was still pretty smart. And my mom had given me some money, to take care of my business. And then that family started to try to, swindle me out of some money. And I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. Mm-mm. If we're going to buy something, we're going to split it. And then I'm going to pay my part, but don't think I'm going to be doing half and six of you going to eat and stuff. No, we're not doing that. And one day I had words with the wife, and she started fussing because she had asked me for some money, and I'm like, no, ma'am. I didn't say ma'am at that time. She started fussing, so I left the house, and I remember being, and I think I told that story in one video. I was wearing, it was winter in New York. I'm from the Caribbean. We don't have cold weather. I was so cold. So I left the house and I started walking and I ended up inside a Burger King. And I sat down. I don't remember if I bought something, but I started crying. I was thinking, I can't stay with those people. I'm in a new country. I have no family. What am I going to do? And then as I was crying, this young lady came and tapped me on the back. First angel. Well, not first, one. She said, why are you crying like that? And I explained the situation to her. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. I know this lady who is older. She lives alone. And she's been looking for someone to stay with her. You could stay with her. So I went and stayed with that woman until I got married. And I have to tell you, that started a trajectory of my life of, getting into a church that became my family, having friends, having a community, some people who cared about me, and I felt connected and grounded. So what the devil meant for bad, God turned it for good. But I'm not going to talk about my marriage because I'm a divorcee. Some of the choices that I made were not the best for a lot of reasons. Maybe I can do another video about that. But fast forward, got married, college, went to nursing school, kids, 2 kids before I had my daughter after we moved to Florida. Busy, answering the call of making something out of myself. And what did that mean? I had to buy a house. I had to buy a car. I was in the church, but there was a certain, I don't want to say pressure, but expectation and standard that you just lived by. It was a code that you had to be successful in the eyes of everybody who was looking, because your poor mother, who's a single mom, scraped her money to send you over. So you had to do something with your life. So that's what I did until after we moved to Florida, after we had our 3rd child, then divorce happened, then this and that. You guys, some of you know the story. But when it came to retirement, after I had toiled, got the degrees, got the accolades, and I have to tell you, if I were to look back, maybe early 2000, I had some first. I was a nurse supervisor and I did well in my career. I was a good nurse. I was very proud of that. I never lost my sense of humanity, caring about people, touching people. I absolutely love being a nurse. I took my oath seriously and I cared about people, and my patients loved me. And also, I had some accolades in terms of community accolades. I became the first African American and the first woman chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in a small little town in Central Florida. I remember being on the board, because being on the board is what you did. I had a I was on the PTA, and you were a soccer mom, you were making hot dogs and accompanying the team on the kids played sports. And most of the time it was me accompanying them, putting them in the van and traveling 2-3 hours away. And yeah, it was me. Like it was you then too. I'm sure. I remember being on the board of the Chamber of Commerce because that's what you did, right? Representation matters. And I remember getting a call one time from, I want to say the current chair. I don't remember if it was a current chair or not. He said, "Maggie, are you sitting down?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He said, I want to tell you something. Go ahead and sit down." So I sat down. And then he said, "The committee and I met, and we'd like you to be the next chamber chairman." I said, "Chairman of what?" Because I didn't know what that meant. He said, "Of the Chamber of Commerce." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" He said, "That's why I told you to sit down." And I'm like, I don't know. It's just like disbelief, right? I said, "Let me think about it." And I went home and talked to my husband about it. But I understood the responsibility of the position. I understood the responsibility that I had to be the first to open the door. And I took it. I said yes, because that was my calling. and I think it was 2004, I believe. I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce for a year. And under my tenure, we did things for like small business, and it started an era of open-mindedness in that community, because after me, there were like 2 or 3 other women Chamber of the Commerce. So I opened the door, but I think that door has shut again. Isn't that what we're seeing right now? The regression going back? Yes. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I have no regrets. But when I started thinking about retirement, and you know, I don't like that word because retirement was coined. I mean, the general idea, not even the word, the general idea was that men, not necessarily women, would no longer be viable after 50 or 55, that up to that age, you would have given your best that you have, your best abilities, your mind, your brain, what you could do. And once you get to that certain age, then they felt that you were no good, no longer productive. So that's why the whole idea of pension and retirement fund and Social Security, all that followed, that after a certain age, you are no longer viable. We need to put you somewhere. And then in order to entice you to take the leap to leave the workplace, they said, oh, we'll pay you a little something so that you can feel like you're not going out empty-handed. And that's why I don't like the term retirement. But we all have bought into it. Big programs, funds, Social Security, Medicare, everything is built around the idea that you get to be a certain age, you need to exit. Even though for the last 20, 30 years, we have bucked that trend to show you that no, people are still viable. But ageism, you know, that companies no longer want to hire you. And I'm thinking, I would love to start a business to get people to, even though I don't want to really businesses, but why aren't we tapping into this community of people like myself? We are skilled. We are smart. We are viable. We're not near death. So why don't you hire us? Why don't you use us as contractors or whatever? Why can't you see that? Why do you just stop at somebody being 65? So what? People are living in it to be 100. Why does it take so long for somebody to see what is happening? Why does it take 20, 30 years for you to come to terms with, it's exhausting. So when I started thinking about retirement, maybe 10, 20 years ago, I have to tell you, I was filled with dread. I was programmed to perform, to do, to earn. And the whole idea that I would no longer be able to do that was like, what am I going to do with myself? And I remember vividly saying, retired? What would I do with myself? I can't retire. I have to stay here and work until I drop. I meant in my mind, I was going to work until I could no longer do it. Not because somebody said, because I knew you could continue to do some part-time work. And that's what I was thinking of doing. Until COVID hit and I had COVID. And like a lot of other people, COVID made you realize that tomorrow is not promised. That if you want to do something, you needed to do it now rather than later, because later is not promised. So I said, well, I'm not quite at the retirement age. Let me see where I could land. And things had started to shift. And like a lot of you, I had started to look outward to say, where could I spend the last of my years? And that's how I ended up here in Panama. And you know some of the story. So I am here, having been retired now 5 years, I think. In my retirement, even though I had thought about it, it wasn't planned. I didn't have a date and time, like some of you do. I know I speak to sisters who say, well, I'm 2 years out, I'm 3 years out. I never thought that way. I was like, I'm going to go to the motherland, to Africa. I'm going to start a business. And then retirement became a non-issue, would be a non-issue at that time. But you know, the best laid plans tend to shift and change. And that's how I ended up in Panama when I did, like, I veered. Well, what are some of the surprises that I have seen in retirement? As I said, I told you, I thought I would work till I dropped, not necessarily out of necessity, but out of a need to continue to be productive. So I wouldn't be bored, because I do get bored very easy, and I plan not to be bored. So I was scared. I was scared that if I was forced to retire, I would be bored out of my head, because what I said to myself, I said, I don't play golf. I can't see myself living in those assisted living with a bunch of people who are like, where are we going today? Are we going to play ball? Are we going to play bingo? Are we going to do that? Ooh, that whole idea filled me with dread. And I was like, oh, hell to the no. There's no way I'm going to live myself like that. I'm going to live my life as a retiree like that. And you know, my number one reason for being in Panama is that those nursing homes, I don't care how fancy they look, no bueno. I don't want to end up in a place like that. I pray that God would strike me with something fast and then go. I don't want to drag. I don't want to be dragged into a place and then watch myself becoming a shell of myself. So when I came to Panama and I decided to, first of all, you know, I wanted to volunteer, and that's when my South Africa experience started. But when I returned prematurely, it was like, what are you going to do? And that's how SWRA started. You've heard the story. I decided to come here and create a life that my whatever little income I have coming will be able to sustain me without me having to go back where I was living. So my surprise, one of the surprises that I realized in retirement, don't get me wrong, abroad, it carries with itself a whole different set of considerations because you're not in familiar territory. So my surprise is that it's taking some time for me to get my footing. So when you look at me, you're going to say, oh, what do you mean, Maggie? You seem to be planted. Of course I am planted. But do I really understand the whole Panamanian system of aging? No, I'm not near close to really getting a handle. Making Panamanian friends is not that easy. Friends who are going to hold your hand and kind of maneuver you through what I'm trying to accomplish. I have not met those people yet. I've met a few, but it's like you talk about it, it drops off. You talk about it, it drops off. So don't. You know, when you grow in a system that you've known for 40, 50 years, even though it's broken, but you know how to navigate, right? But when you're abroad, it's a whole different ball of wax. So when I'm talking to the sisters and sometimes they say, oh, you said we were going to have a building. You said, I might have said a bunch of things, but the reality is like, not yet. And the not yet, it's not very palatable for some people. So first of all, I'm in a different country. I do not really know the system. I'm just telling you. And the surprise is that how long it is taking for me to gather the information, to really look around. And of course, I'm big on culture. Yes, the Panamanian culture is, yeah, we take care of our own. Well, like this Panamanian sister said, you love my country. I think it's great. But when you get really old and you get sick, you're going to end up going back because you don't have that support. We don't have that support yet. I don't have that support yet. I just need to keep my eye on my goal, to constantly be looking and researching. Okay? Right now, we are in the information gathering phase, and it's been 3 years. So if you are an impatient person, just like I tell my student of Spanish, if you think you're going to learn Spanish in 3 months, it's not going to happen, sis. And this here, this establishing a model of aging is not going to be fast. Okay? The other surprise that I have is that even though I know the language, I can maneuver. After 3 years of living here in Panama, I'm still not fluent in Spanish. So I need to keep working on it. So wherever you decide to move, to retire to, understand, don't be surprised like I am that it's taking this long. And I know I heard this gentleman who said he's been in Panama 15 years and he's very fluent. And I'm like, I want to be fluent by the time I hit my 5th anniversary. So I have 2 years to really polish my Spanish so that when I open my mouth, I don't stumble upon how to say things, right? The third surprise that I have had is how busy my life is in retirement. How surprising it is that I had that fear of not having enough to do. And then now I have a calendar. If somebody said, let's do this, and I'm going to say, oh, sis, let me check the calendar. Because I do so many different things. And I have a calendar that is available to other folks so that if they want to book a call or something, they have to look on my calendar. And even then, sometimes I get myself in trouble because I don't put things down that I should have. So that is a surprise. The other one is not a surprise, but it's kind of a come to Jesus, an acknowledgement that death is not something that I fear anymore. Not only because of what is happening in the world, where we come from, the uncertainty, the sense of we're going backward instead of forward, the sadness that grabs you every day with the lack of humanity and decency, and oh my God. And I am like, if it happens tomorrow, don't cry for me, Argentina. It's kind of a relief. So I do no longer fear, even though I take care of myself, you know that. But the intent is not because I want to live to be 100. That's a good distinction. I take care of myself because I want to keep the quality of my life on a high level, but not because I'm afraid of dying and I want to live to be 105. In fact, I don't think I do. If these knees are like that in the 60s, imagine in the 90s, it's going to be push. What else has been a surprise? Another surprise is, it's not really a surprise in an acknowledgement that making meaningful friendships take time. That hasn't changed. Especially someone in a position that I am where I'm creating and people are looking at me. There is a level of guardedness that exists that it's not like you can fully open up because people are people. They're retired, but they're still the same people that you work with in the office. Yeah, the same ones are here. Even though they're older, they're here. So I have to peel the layers. I have to be very careful as to who I open myself to. But there's danger in those. There's danger in that. There is danger in that. So I'm thinking, is there anything else that surprised me? And I'm not talking politics because those surprise everybody of where we are right now in time. I guess another is not really a surprise, is that the idea that we had of our retirement being peaceful and rewarding and warm, it's like it was a bubble that has burst. That we're not going to have a peaceful retirement because of this, because of that, challenges, surprises, threats, to do your SWOT analysis, the threats of what is coming, what could come, and the idea that retirement is not going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be just hanging out with friends, singing, doing what the sister did the other day, the line dancing. Oh, you can do all that. And I think it's good. But our notion of retiring in peace and enjoying the rest of our days has burst because some people have made it their business to just ruffle everything up, mess everything up, getting everybody off kilter. But we do try our best. I spoke about that this morning. In the midst of it all, we have to resolve to be ourselves, to be thankful and quiet and calm and grateful. So I just wanted to kind of share my heart with you today to say that where I come from, regardless of all the things that have happened in my life, I am blessed. I have had a blessed life. A little girl from a poor island. I've never been on government assistance. I have never been in jail, thank God. My kids, thank God, I sit on my knees for them every day. My family members, everyone, living vicariously by faith. And I think as an older woman, as a wise woman, this is what I should do. Look back and say, thank you, Lord. Instead of cursing every bad thing that has happened to me, every disappointment, every bad decision, every loss, that we can still raise our hand to the sky and say thank you. So I hope that inspires you today, sis, to look back and to just focus on the positive, realizing that we are still a work in progress, that we are still evolving, progressing, improving, and to take this life one day at a time. We cannot take it all in. We cannot look at everything that's happening and just feeling overwhelmed. It's not going to do us good. So we have to keep our eyes up. Where comes my help? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. All right, sis, that's all I had for you today. Just a little musing, looking back and being grateful and thankful and telling you about some surprises in retirement, but we're still forging ahead, aren't we? All right, sis, I will see you in the next video. Have a good day. God loves you. You know I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye.